I found the letter by accident. It slipped out of the pocket of my wife's coat as I was hanging it in the closet. Your Mark, it read. My Jessica, my beloved wife, whom I thought had no secrets from me. But this letter was the beginning of our journey towards a truth filled with pain and hope for forgiveness. Jessica had always been passionate about poetry. When she joined the local poetry club a few months ago, I was thrilled for her. She was so excited, like a kid with a new toy. Every week she'd come home from the club meetings with a spark in her eyes, carrying a new poem or a book that one of her fellow poets recommended. I remember the first time she told me about Mark. He was a member of the club, a published poet with a knack for words that could make anyone swoon. He's incredibly talented, she said one evening, her eyes lighting up. You should read his work, Adam. It's beautiful. At first I was happy she had found someone to share her passion with. But soon, her excitement about the poetry club started to feel like a barrier between us. Jessica began spending more time at the club, staying out late for what she claimed were writing sessions and readings. She'd come home with a glow, a radiance that I hadn't seen in years. It was almost as if she was falling in love again, only not with me. Then came the changes in her behavior. Jessica grew distant, often lost in thought, her mind seemingly a million miles away, even when we were together. Our conversations became sparse and superficial, and the warmth that used to envelop our home began to dissipate. The discovery of the letter was the tipping point. Holding it in my hands, I felt a surge of emotions: anger, betrayal, confusion. My mind raced with questions. Who was this Mark to her? How long had this been going on? Was it just an emotional affair, or had it crossed into something more? That evening, I confronted her. Jessica, I found this letter, I said, holding it up. Her eyes widened and she reached for it, but I pulled it back. Who is Mark? Her face turned pale. Adam, it's not what you think, she stammered. He's just a friend from the poetry club. Just a friend? I repeated, my voice shaking. This doesn't sound like a letter from just a friend, Jess. She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. We talk a lot. About poetry, about life. He's been going through a rough time, and I've been there for him. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that my wife, the woman I had been married to for 10 years, wouldn't betray me. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing rapidly. The next few weeks were a blur. I started to watch her more closely, noticing the little things I had previously ignored. The way she'd smile at her phone, the text messages she'd hide, the sudden need to leave the room to take a call. One evening, I decided to follow her. She said she was going to the club, but I had to know for sure. I waited until she left and then drove to the address she had given. My heart pounded as I parked a block away and walked towards the entrance. Through the window, I saw them. Jessica and Mark sitting close together at a table, their heads bent in a deep conversation. She looked happier than I had seen her in months, laughing at something he said, her eyes shining. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. This was real. This was happening. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene over and over in my mind. The woman I loved was slipping away from me, and I didn't know how to stop it. The next day, I confronted her again. This time, I was more prepared. Jessica, I followed you to the poetry club last night. I saw you with Mark. She froze, her face a mask of shock and guilt. Adam, Don't lie to me, I interrupted, my voice breaking. I saw the way you looked at him. Just tell me the truth. Tears filled her eyes. I'm so sorry, Adam. I never meant for this to happen. We just connected on a different level. It started with poetry, but it became more. Her confession felt like a dagger to my heart. The trust we had built over the years shattered in an instant. I knew our marriage was at a crossroads, and the road to healing would be long and painful. Jessica agreed to stop seeing Mark and to focus on repairing our relationship. We decided to see a marriage counselor, hoping to rebuild the trust that had been broken. It was a difficult journey, filled with moments of doubt and anger, but we were determined to try. In the end, it wasn't just the affair that threatened to destroy us. It was the realization that we had grown apart over the years, losing sight of what truly mattered. Through therapy and countless heartfelt conversations, we began to rediscover each other and the love that had brought us together in the first place. The road to forgiveness was not easy, but it was worth it. Jessica and I renewed our commitment to each other, vowing to never let anything come between us again. As we stood on the beach, renewing our vows, I knew that we had been given a second chance, a chance to start anew and build a future together, stronger than ever before. The days following Jessica's confession were some of the hardest I'd ever experienced. The trust we had was shattered, and I found myself questioning everything. I had always prided myself on being a good husband, supportive and loving, but now I wondered where I had gone wrong. Our first session with the marriage counselor was awkward. Jessica and I sat on opposite ends of the couch, avoiding each other's eyes. Dr. Thompson, a calm and composed woman in her 50s, began by asking us to share our feelings. Jessica spoke first, her voice trembling as she apologized once again, and tried to explain how she had felt lost and disconnected before meeting Mark. Listening to her, I felt a mixture of anger and sadness. It was painful to hear how she had felt unloved and unappreciated, but at the same time, I couldn't shake the image of her with another man. When it was my turn to speak, I struggled to find the right words. I talked about my feelings of betrayal and how difficult it was to trust her again. Dr. Thompson suggested that we needed closure with Mark if we were to move forward. It was clear that his presence was a lingering shadow over our attempts to rebuild our relationship. She proposed that we confront him together, to set boundaries and to seek the closure we desperately needed. The idea of confronting Mark was daunting. I had never been a confrontational person, but I knew it was necessary. We arranged to meet him at a neutral location, a small coffee shop on the other side of town. As we walked in, I felt a surge of adrenaline. Jessica held my hand, her grip tight and reassuring, but I could sense her anxiety. Mark was already there, sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee in front of him. He looked up as we approached, a mixture of surprise and apprehension crossing his face. I could see why Jessica had been drawn to him. He had an easy charm and a confident demeanor, but at that moment, all I could see was the man who had come between us. "Mark," I said, keeping my voice steady, "we need to talk." He nodded, gesturing for us to sit. Jessica and I took our seats opposite him. There was an awkward silence before he spoke. "I didn't expect to see you both here," he said, looking at Jessica. "I'm sorry for any pain I've caused." "Sorry doesn't cut it," I replied, unable to hide the bitterness in my voice. "You knew she was married." "I did," he admitted, his eyes downcast. "But it wasn't supposed to go this far. We connected over poetry and it just happened." "Connected over poetry?" I repeated, feeling a surge of anger. "You call this a connection? You almost destroyed our marriage." Jessica squeezed my hand, a silent plea for me to stay calm. "Mark," she said softly, "we're here because we need to move on. I'm committed to my marriage and we need to set boundaries." He looked at her, a mixture of regret and resignation in his eyes. "I understand," he said quietly. "I'll respect your wishes and keep my distance." I felt a sense of relief, but also a lingering resentment. It wasn't fair that a man who barely knew us had caused so much damage, but at that moment, all I wanted was to focus on healing and moving forward. As we left the coffee shop, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The confrontation with Mark was a necessary step, and I could see the relief in Jessica's eyes as well. It was a small victory, but it gave us hope. In the weeks that followed, Jessica and I continued our sessions with Dr. Thompson. We began to communicate more openly, addressing the issues that had driven us apart. It wasn't easy, and there were days when the pain and anger resurfaced, but we were determined to make it work. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Jessica turned to me. "Adam, I know I've hurt you deeply, and I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. But I want you to know that I'm committed to us. I want to rebuild what we had, stronger than before." I looked into her eyes, seeing the sincerity and the hope. "I want that too," I said, taking her hand. "It's going to take time, but I believe we can get there." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over us, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Our journey was far from over, but for the first time in months, I felt that we were on the right path. Together, we could face the challenges ahead and rebuild our marriage, one step at a time. The weeks turned into months as Jessica and I navigated the rocky terrain of rebuilding our marriage. The counseling sessions with Dr. Thompson became a cornerstone of our recovery, offering us a safe space to express our feelings and work through our issues. One particular session stands out in my memory. Dr. Thompson asked us to reflect on the moments that made us fall in love with each other. At first, it felt like a cruel exercise, dredging up happy memories amidst our current turmoil. But as we began to speak, I realized the importance of remembering the good times. I remember our first date, I started, my voice wavering slightly. We went to that little Italian restaurant downtown. You wore a red dress and I couldn't take my eyes off you. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing. Jessica smiled, a hint of the warmth that once defined our relationship returning to her eyes. I remember that night too, she said softly. You made me feel so special, like I was the only person in the world. These moments of connection were crucial. They reminded us of the love that had brought us together and gave us a foundation to build upon. However, the journey was not without its setbacks. There were days when the weight of the past felt unbearable and the wounds seemed too deep to heal. One evening, after a particularly intense session, we decided to take a walk in the park. The air was crisp and the leaves crunched under our feet as we strolled along the path. We walked in silence for a while, each lost in our thoughts. Adam, Jessica said eventually, breaking the silence, I've been thinking a lot about us, about what went wrong and how we got here. I nodded, bracing myself for what she was about to say. I know I hurt you deeply, she continued, and I know it's going to take time for you to trust me again, but I need you to know that I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to make this right. Her words were sincere, but I still felt a lingering doubt. I appreciate that, Jess, I said, choosing my words carefully. But it's not just about commitment. It's about understanding why this happened and making sure it never happens again. She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. I know, and I'm willing to put in the work, for us, for our future. As we continued walking, I felt a glimmer of hope. It wasn't going to be easy, but we were both willing to fight for our marriage. One significant turning point came when Jessica suggested we take a short trip together. I think we need a change of scenery, she said one morning over breakfast. Just the two of us, away from everything. It might help us reconnect. I hesitated at first, unsure if it was the right time, but eventually I agreed. We booked a cabin in the mountains, a place where we could escape the daily reminders of our struggles and focus on each other. The trip was a revelation. Surrounded by nature, away from the distractions and stresses of everyday life, we found ourselves talking more openly than we had in months. We hiked through the woods, cooked meals together, and spent evenings by the fireplace, sharing stories and rediscovering each other. One night, as we sat by the fire, Jessica reached out and took my hand. I love you, Adam, she said, her voice filled with emotion. I know I've said it before, but I need you to know how much you mean to me. I looked into her eyes, seeing the depth of her sincerity. I love you too, Jess, I replied, and I'm willing to keep fighting for us. That trip marked a turning point. When we returned home, we felt more connected and more determined to make our marriage work. We continued our counseling sessions, but with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. There were still challenges, of course. Trust is not easily rebuilt, and there were moments when the pain and doubt resurfaced. But we faced them together, leaning on each other for support and strength. As the months passed, I began to see the woman I had fallen in love with return. Jessica was more present, more engaged, and more committed to our relationship than ever before. And I, too, found myself opening up, letting go of the anger, and embracing the possibility of a future together. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Jessica turned to me with a smile. I've been thinking, she said. Maybe it's time we start talking about our future, about what we want and how we can make it happen. I nodded, feeling a sense of excitement and hope. I'd like that, I replied. I'd like that a lot. And so, we began to dream again. Dream of a future built on trust, love, and a shared commitment to each other. The road ahead was still long, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were walking it together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came our way. The process of healing brought Jessica and me closer in ways I hadn't imagined possible. The trip to the mountains had rekindled a spark, and now, back in our daily lives, We were determined to keep that flame burning. Our conversations became deeper, more meaningful, and filled with a newfound sense of intimacy. One Saturday morning, as we sat together sipping coffee, Jessica suggested we revisit some of our old haunts. "Remember the little bookshop we used to go to?" she asked, her eyes shining with nostalgia. "The one with the cozy reading nook in the back?" I smiled, remembering those early days of our relationship. Of course, we spent hours there, lost in our own little world. "Let's go back," she said, a hopeful note in her voice. "Maybe it'll remind us of how far we've come and why we fell in love in the first place." We drove to the bookshop that afternoon. As we stepped inside, the familiar scent of old books and the comforting quiet enveloped us. It felt like stepping back in time. We wandered through the aisles, picking up books and sharing our thoughts. Eventually, we found ourselves in the cozy nook, just as we had so many years ago. Sitting there, surrounded by the memories of our past, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Jess, thank you for suggesting this," I said, taking her hand. "It's a good reminder of everything we've built together." She smiled, squeezing my hand. "I want us to keep building, Adam, to keep finding ways to connect and grow." We spent the rest of the afternoon lost in books and conversation, feeling more connected than we had in a long time. It was a small but significant step in our journey toward healing. As we continued to rebuild our relationship, we also started to reimagine our future. One evening, while preparing dinner together, Jessica broached the topic of expanding our family. "I've been thinking about us," she said, chopping vegetables with a thoughtful expression, "about what we want our future to look like." I paused, looking at her with curiosity. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe it's time we start thinking about having children," she said, her voice tentative. "I know it's a big step, but I feel like we're in a good place now. We've worked so hard to get here." The idea of starting a family had always been a distant thought, something we had talked about but never seriously pursued. Now, hearing her speak about it with such hope and optimism, I felt a rush of emotions. "Jess, are you sure?" I asked, searching her eyes. She nodded, her expression earnest. "I am. I want to build a future with you, to create something beautiful out of everything we've been through." Her words touched me deeply. "I want that too," I said, pulling her into a hug. "I want us to build a future together, whatever that looks like." From that moment on, we began to dream and plan for our future with renewed hope. We started making small changes around the house, preparing for the possibility of a new addition to our family. The spare room, once a neglected space, was slowly transformed into a cozy nursery. We painted the walls a soft pastel color and filled the room with books and toys, each item a symbol of our commitment to the future we were building together. Our lives settled into a new rhythm, one filled with both the routine of daily life and the excitement of planning for the future. The trust we were rebuilding grew stronger with each passing day, and the love that had once seemed lost was rekindled, brighter than ever. One evening, as we sat on the porch, Jessica leaned her head on my shoulder. "Adam, I've been thinking about something else too," she said softly. "What is it?" I asked, curious. "I think it's time we renew our vows," she said, looking up at me with a smile, "to reaffirm our commitment to each other and to the future we're building." The idea warmed my heart. "I'd like that," I said, kissing her forehead. "I'd like that a lot." We began planning a small ceremony, something intimate and meaningful. We chose a secluded spot on the beach, a place where we could stand together, surrounded by the beauty of nature, and promise ourselves to each other once more. The day of the ceremony arrived, and as we stood together on the beach, the waves gently lapping at our feet, I felt a deep sense of peace. Jessica looked radiant, her eyes filled with love and hope. As we exchanged our vows, I promised to always be there for her, to cherish and support her, no matter what challenges we faced. Jessica's vows were equally heartfelt, a testament to the strength and resilience of our love. "Adam," she said, her voice steady and full of emotion, "I promise to always stand by your side, to love and support you, and to build a future together, filled with love and happiness." As we embraced, surrounded by the beauty of the setting sun, I knew that we had truly come full circle. Our journey had been fraught with pain and hardship, but it had also brought us closer and made us stronger. Together, we had overcome the odds and found our way back to each other. With renewed vows and a hopeful heart, We stepped into our future, ready to face whatever came our way. The path ahead was still uncertain, but as long as we were together, I knew we could overcome anything. Our love had been tested, but it had emerged stronger, a beacon of hope and resilience in a world that often seemed uncertain. And so, hand in hand, we walked into the future, ready to build a life filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. After renewing our vows on the beach, Jessica and I felt an overwhelming sense of hope and renewed commitment. Our journey towards healing was far from over, but we were now walking it hand in hand, stronger together. Our days were filled with small joys and meaningful conversations, and we started dreaming about our future with an almost childlike excitement. One bright morning, as we sat on the porch with our coffee, Jessica turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Adam, I've been thinking about my job at the museum," she said. "After everything that's happened, I'm not sure it's the right place for me anymore." I looked at her surprised. Her job had always been a significant part of her life, a source of passion and creativity. "What do you mean?" I asked, curious. "I think it's time for a change," she said, her voice resolute. "I want to focus on us, on our future, and maybe find something new that brings me joy and fulfillment." Her words resonated with me. I had seen the toll her job had taken on her, especially during the difficult times in our marriage. "What are you thinking of doing instead?" I asked. "I'm not sure yet," she admitted, "but I want to explore new opportunities, maybe something in a different field, something that allows me to be more present at home." I nodded, supporting her decision. "Whatever you choose, Jess, I'll be here for you. We'll figure it out together." With that decision, Jessica handed in her resignation at the museum and began exploring new possibilities. It was a significant change, but one that felt right for both of us. It allowed us to focus more on our relationship and the plans we had for our future. One evening, as we were organizing the newly painted nursery, Jessica brought up another idea. "What if we take a trip before we start trying for a baby?" she suggested. "A kind of last adventure, just the two of us." The idea intrigued me. We had always loved traveling, and it seemed like the perfect way to celebrate our renewed relationship. "I think that's a great idea," I said, smiling. "Where do you want to go?" "I've always wanted to visit Europe," she said, her eyes lighting up. "Paris, Rome, maybe even a little village in the countryside." The thought of exploring new places together filled me with excitement. "Let's do it," I agreed. "Let's make it a trip to remember." We spent the next few weeks planning our European adventure, mapping out our itinerary, and making all the necessary arrangements. The anticipation of the trip added a new layer of joy and excitement to our lives, giving us something to look forward to. As we boarded the plane to Paris, I felt a sense of freedom and exhilaration. This trip was a symbol of our new beginning, a chance to create beautiful memories and strengthen our bond even further. Paris was everything we had dreamed of and more. We wandered through charming streets, visited iconic landmarks, and indulged in delicious cuisine. One evening, as we stood atop the Eiffel Tower, looking out at the city lights, Jessica leaned into me and whispered, "This is perfect, Adam. Thank you for making this possible." I hugged her tightly, feeling a profound sense of happiness. "Thank you for being here with me," I replied. "I wouldn't want to share this with anyone else." After Paris, we traveled to Rome, where we marveled at the ancient ruins and soaked in the rich history. From there, we journeyed to a small village in the Italian countryside, where we stayed in a quaint bed and breakfast. The simplicity and beauty of the village life were a refreshing change from our usual routine, and it gave us plenty of time to relax and enjoy each other's company. One afternoon, as we sat on the terrace overlooking the rolling hills, Jessica took my hand. "Adam, I have something to tell you," she said, her voice filled with emotion. I looked at her, concerned. "What is it, Jess?" She took a deep breath before speaking. "I'm pregnant," she said, her eyes brimming with tears of joy. The words took a moment to sink in. When they did, I felt an overwhelming surge of happiness. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice filled with awe. She nodded, smiling through her tears. "I found out just before we left. I wanted to tell you here in this beautiful place." I pulled her into a tight embrace, my heart swelling with love and joy. "This is amazing, Jess. I can't believe it." We spent the rest of the afternoon talking about our hopes and dreams for our child, the excitement and nervousness mingling together. It was a perfect ending to our trip, a promise of a new beginning filled with love and possibilities. Returning home, we were filled with a renewed sense of purpose and excitement. We threw ourselves into preparing for the arrival of our baby, decorating the nursery with even more care and attention. The days were filled with doctor's appointments, shopping for baby essentials, and reading parenting books. Our lives had changed so much in the past year, but each change had brought us closer together. We were no longer the same people we had been before the affair, but in many ways, we were stronger and more connected. The trials we had faced had tested our love and commitment, but they had also forged a deeper bond between us. One evening, as we sat on the porch, Jessica resting her head on my shoulder, I reflected on everything we had been through. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" I said softly. Jessica nodded, her hand resting on her growing belly. "Yes, we have, and I wouldn't trade any of it for the world." I kissed her forehead, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. "Me neither, Jess, me neither." As we looked out at the sunset, I knew that our journey was far from over. There would be more challenges and more changes, but as long as we faced them together, I knew we could overcome anything. Our love had been tested and had emerged stronger, ready to embrace whatever the future held. And with our baby on the way, the future looked brighter than ever. The news of Jessica's pregnancy brought an electrifying sense of anticipation into our lives. Each day was a step closer to welcoming a new member into our family, and we embraced the excitement with open hearts. Our lives began to revolve around preparing for the baby, and it seemed like everything we did carried a deeper meaning. One crisp autumn morning, we decided to visit a local farm that hosted a pumpkin patch and hay rides, an annual tradition in our town. Jessica had always loved autumn, and we thought it would be a perfect way to celebrate the new season of our lives. As we walked hand in hand through the pumpkin patch, I couldn't help but think about how different our lives were now compared to a year ago. "Can you believe we'll be bringing a little one here next year?" Jessica asked, her face glowing with happiness. I smiled, squeezing her hand. "I can't wait. It'll be so much fun to watch our child experience all of this." We picked out the perfect pumpkin, imagining it as the centerpiece of our first Halloween with our baby. The thought of carving it together, with a tiny pair of hands helping us, filled me with joy. As we left the farm, I felt a surge of gratitude for the life we were building. Back at home, our preparations continued in earnest. We painted the nursery a soft mint green and decorated it with whimsical forest animals. Each detail felt like a step toward creating a warm and welcoming space for our child. Jessica's attention to detail was impeccable, and I loved seeing her creativity come to life in the room. One evening, as we assembled the crib, Jessica paused and looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of love and determination. "Adam, I've been thinking a lot about how we want to raise our child. I want them to grow up in a home filled with love and honesty, where they feel safe and valued." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of agreement. "Absolutely. I want our children to know that no matter what, they are loved and supported." As the days passed, we found ourselves falling into a comfortable routine. Jessica's pregnancy progressed smoothly, and each doctor's visit brought reassuring news. We attended childbirth classes together, learning about the birthing process and how to care for a newborn. The classes were both informative and bonding, giving us a sense of confidence and readiness. One day, while Jessica was at one of her prenatal yoga classes, I decided to surprise her by starting a baby scrapbook. I gathered photos, ultrasound images, and little mementos from our journey so far. As I worked on it, I reflected on the past year and how far we had come. The scrapbook felt like a testament to our resilience and love, a story of healing and new beginnings. When Jessica came home, I showed her the scrapbook. She flipped through the pages, her eyes welling up with tears of happiness. "Adam, this is beautiful. Thank you." We spent the evening adding more to the scrapbook together, sharing memories and dreams for our future. It became a cherished ritual, a way to document our journey and look forward to the life we were creating. As Jessica's due date approached, we prepared a hospital bag and discussed our birth plan. We knew that things might not go exactly as planned, but we felt ready to face whatever came our way. Our excitement was tinged with nervousness, but the anticipation of meeting our baby overshadowed any fears. One crisp winter morning, I woke to find Jessica standing by the window, her hand resting on her belly. "I think it's time," she said. her voice a mix of excitement and calm. We quickly gathered our things and headed to the hospital. The drive there felt surreal, a mixture of adrenaline and anticipation coursing through my veins. When we arrived, the hospital staff guided us to the delivery room, where we settled in for what would be one of the most incredible experiences of our lives. The labor was long and intense, but Jessica was incredible. Her strength and determination amazed me, and I did my best to support her through every contraction. Dr. Thompson, our trusted counselor, had given us valuable advice on how to stay connected and supportive during this time, and I clung to her words. Finally, after hours of labor, our baby entered the world with a powerful cry. Tears of joy streamed down my face as I looked at our newborn, a tiny, perfect being that we had created together. The nurse placed the baby on Jessica's chest, and we both gazed in awe at our child. "Welcome to the world, little one," Jessica whispered, her voice filled with love. As I held our baby for the first time, a profound sense of love and responsibility washed over me. This tiny person depended on us for everything, and I knew that we would do everything in our power to provide a loving and nurturing home. In the days that followed, we settled into our new roles as parents. The sleepless nights and constant feedings were challenging, but each moment was filled with love and wonder. Our home was filled with the sounds of coos and laughter, a testament to the new life we had brought into the world. Jessica and I grew even closer as we navigated this new chapter together. The bond we had rebuilt was now stronger than ever, fortified by the love and dedication we had poured into our relationship. We were no longer just Adam and Jessica. We were a family, ready to face the future with hope and love. As I rocked our baby to sleep one quiet evening, I reflected on our journey. It had been a path filled with pain and hardship, but it had also brought us unimaginable joy. Our love had been tested and had emerged stronger, ready to embrace whatever the future held. With Jessica by my side and our baby in my arms, I knew that we could face anything. Our story was far from over. It was just beginning, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a beautiful future. Bringing our baby home marked the beginning of a new and exhilarating chapter in our lives. Every day brought fresh challenges and rewards as we adapted to our roles as parents. Our once quiet home was now filled with the delightful sounds of coos, giggles, and the occasional cries of our newborn. One crisp morning, I found myself standing by the nursery window, holding our baby in my arms. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the room. Jessica came in, still groggy from the night's feedings, and smiled at the sight of us. "Good morning," she whispered, kissing me on the cheek before gently touching our baby's head. "Good morning," I replied softly. "I was just thinking about how much our lives have changed." Jessica nodded, her eyes twinkling with love. "It's amazing, isn't it? I wouldn't trade any of it for the world." Our days settled into a comfortable routine. Mornings were spent cuddling our baby, afternoons were filled with walks around the neighborhood, and evenings were dedicated to quiet family time. Each moment, no matter how ordinary, felt special. One evening after putting the baby to sleep, Jessica and I sat on the porch, enjoying the cool night air. "I've been thinking about going back to work," she said, breaking the silence. I turned to her, surprised. "Already? Are you sure you're ready?" She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I miss being active and contributing, but I want to find something that allows me to be present for our family." "I understand," I said, squeezing her hand. "We'll figure it out together." Jessica's search for a new job began in earnest. She explored various options, seeking something that would align with her skills and passions, while providing the flexibility she needed. It wasn't long before she found a position at a local nonprofit organization, focused on supporting children's education. The role was perfect, allowing her to make a difference in the community while still being there for our family. On her first day back at work, I felt a mix of pride and nervousness. As she kissed our baby goodbye and headed out the door, I could see the excitement and determination in her eyes. "You've got this," I said, giving her a reassuring smile. The days flew by as we adjusted to our new routine. I took on more responsibilities at home, enjoying the time I got to spend with our baby. Jessica's work brought her a renewed sense of purpose, and I loved hearing about her day when she came home. Our evenings were filled with stories of her experiences at the nonprofit and my adventures in parenting. One weekend, we decided to host a small gathering with friends and family to celebrate the milestones we had reached. It was a chance to reconnect with loved ones and share our joy. As we prepared for the event, I marveled at how far we had come. The day of the gathering was perfect. Our house was filled with laughter and the chatter of happy conversations. Jessica's parents brought a beautiful homemade cake, and our friends brought gifts and well wishes. As we stood together, surrounded by the people who had supported us through our journey, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. During the celebration, Jessica stood up to say a few words. "I just want to thank everyone for being here," she began, her voice filled with emotion. "This past year has been a roller coaster, but we've come out stronger because of the love and support we've received from all of you." I joined her, taking her hand. "We're so grateful for each and every one of you. Your support has meant the world to us, and we're excited to share this new chapter of our lives with you." As the evening wound down and our guests began to leave, Jessica and I stood together, watching the sunset. "Today was perfect," she said, resting her head on my shoulder. "It was," I agreed. "I'm so proud of us, Jess. We've built something beautiful." Our lives continued to evolve as our baby grew. Each milestone, from the first smile to the first steps, was a cause for celebration. We captured countless moments in our scrapbook, creating a treasure trove of memories to look back on. One evening, as I rocked our baby to sleep, I thought about the future. Our journey had been filled with ups and downs, but it had also brought us incredible joy. We had faced our challenges head-on and emerged stronger, more connected, and ready to embrace whatever came our way. Jessica joined me, sitting beside us with a contented smile. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. "About how lucky we are," I replied, "and how excited I am for the future." She nodded, her eyes filled with love. "Me too. We've come so far, and I know there's so much more ahead for us." As we sat together, our baby sleeping peacefully in my arms, I felt a profound sense of peace. Our story was still unfolding, and I knew that no matter what challenges we faced, we would face them together. Our love had been tested and had grown stronger, a beacon of hope and resilience in a world that often seemed uncertain. And so, with Jessica by my side and our baby in my arms, I looked forward to the future with hope and joy, ready to embrace whatever came our way. Our journey was far from over. It was just beginning, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a beautiful life together. Parenthood, as it turned out, was as challenging as it was rewarding. The days blended into nights, and the cycle of feedings, diaper changes, and sleeplessness took its toll on both of us. Yet every smile, every coo, and every tiny milestone our baby achieved made the exhaustion worthwhile. One rainy afternoon, as I was feeding the baby while Jessica napped, I reflected on how far we had come. The sound of raindrops tapping against the window was soothing, and I found myself lost in thought. Our journey had been tumultuous, but we had built a strong foundation on which to stand. Jessica's job at the nonprofit brought her immense fulfillment, and I admired her dedication. Balancing work and motherhood was no easy task, but she handled it with grace and determination. I took pride in supporting her, ensuring our home was a sanctuary of love and stability. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, we found ourselves sitting on the couch, too tired to talk but comforted by each other's presence. "We're doing okay, right?" Jessica asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. I looked at her, seeing the weariness in her eyes. "We're doing more than okay," I said, taking her hand. "We're doing great. It's not easy, but we're in this together." Jessica smiled, squeezing my hand. "I'm so grateful for you, Adam. I couldn't do this without you." "We're a team," I replied, leaning in to kiss her forehead. "And we're stronger than ever." As the weeks turned into months, we adjusted to our new normal. Our baby grew rapidly, each day bringing new surprises and challenges. We celebrated the first giggle, the first time rolling over, and the first tooth with joy and pride. Our lives were filled with laughter, love, and the occasional bout of chaos. One Saturday morning, we decided to take a family trip to the zoo. It was a beautiful, sunny day, and we were excited to introduce our little one to the wonders of the animal kingdom. As we strolled through the exhibits, Jessica and I took turns pointing out different animals and making silly sounds to entertain our baby. At the penguin exhibit, Jessica turned to me with a wistful smile. Remember when we used to come here just the two of us? I nodded, recalling those carefree days. I do, but this is even better, isn't it? It is, she agreed, her eyes twinkling with happiness. I wouldn't trade this for anything. As we continued our day at the zoo, I felt a profound sense of contentment. Our lives have changed in so many ways, but each change has brought us closer and made us stronger. Back at home that evening, after putting our baby to bed, Jessica and I sat on the porch with a glass of wine. I've been thinking, she said, her tone thoughtful, about everything we've been through and how much we've grown. I looked at her curious. What's on your mind? I think we should start a new tradition, she said, her eyes reflecting the stars above, something that celebrates our journey and keeps us connected. I love that idea, I said, intrigued. What kind of tradition? Maybe a yearly family trip, she suggested. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, just a chance for us to spend quality time together and create new memories. That sounds perfect, I agreed, feeling a surge of excitement. Where should we go first? Jessica smiled, her face lighting up with possibilities. How about a cabin in the mountains, somewhere peaceful and quiet, where we can relax and enjoy nature? I love it, I said, already imagining the cozy fireside chats and long hikes through the woods. Let's do it. With our first family trip planned, we felt a renewed sense of anticipation and joy. It was a chance to celebrate our journey and look forward to the future with hope and excitement. As the months passed, we settled into our roles as parents with more confidence and ease. Each day brought new adventures and challenges, but we faced them together, strengthened by our love and commitment. One evening, as I rocked our baby to sleep, I reflected on how much our lives had changed. We had faced adversity and emerged stronger, building a life filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. Jessica joined me, sitting beside us with a contented smile. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. "About how far we've come," I replied, looking at her with love, "and how excited I am for the future." She nodded, her eyes filled with warmth. "Me too, Adam. We've built something beautiful together." As we sat there, our baby sleeping peacefully in my arms, I knew that our journey was far from over. There would be more challenges and changes ahead, but as long as we faced them together, I was confident that we could overcome anything. Our love had been tested and had grown stronger, a beacon of hope and resilience in a world that often seemed uncertain. With Jessica by my side and our baby in my arms, I looked forward to the future with hope and joy, ready to embrace whatever came our way. Our story was still unfolding, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a beautiful life together. As our baby grew, so did the complexities of our lives. Balancing parenthood, work, and personal time became a juggling act that required constant adjustment. Jessica thrived at her job, and I continued to manage our home, taking pride in being a present father and supportive husband. However, as much as we tried to maintain balance, unexpected challenges began to surface. One evening, as we were getting ready for bed, Jessica seemed unusually quiet. I could tell something was bothering her. "Is everything okay?" I asked, wrapping my arm around her. She sighed, resting her head on my shoulder. "I've been feeling overwhelmed lately. Work is demanding, and I'm struggling to keep up with everything at home." I held her close, feeling the weight of her words. "I'm sorry, Jess. I wish I could do more to help." "You're already doing so much," she said softly. I don't want to feel like I'm failing at anything." "You're not failing," I reassured her. "You're an amazing mother and an incredible professional. It's okay to ask for help and to take a break when you need it." Jessica nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. The pressures of her job and the demands of motherhood were taking a toll on her, and I felt a deep concern for her well-being. A few weeks later, Jessica came home looking particularly exhausted. "I think I need to talk to my boss about reducing my hours," she said, collapsing onto the couch. "I can't keep up this pace." "I think that's a good idea," I said, sitting beside her. "Your health and our family come first." The following day, Jessica had a meeting with her boss. She returned home looking relieved. "They were very understanding," she said, a small smile playing on her lips. "I'm going to work part-time for a while, at least until things settle down." I hugged her, feeling a sense of relief. "That's great news, Jess. I'm proud of you for taking this step." With her reduced hours, Jessica seemed to regain some of her energy and enthusiasm. We spent more quality time together as a family, and our days felt less rushed and more enjoyable. However, life had a way of throwing curveballs when we least expected them. One chilly autumn morning, I received a call from my mother. Her voice was strained with worry. "Adam, I'm afraid your father isn't doing well," she said, her words heavy with concern. "He's been having some health issues, and I think it's time for you to come visit." My heart sank. My father had always been a strong, resilient man, and the thought of him being unwell was difficult to accept. "I'll be there as soon as I can, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I hung up the phone and turned to Jessica, who was feeding our baby. "I need to go see my dad," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "He's not doing well." Jessica looked at me with sympathy and concern. "Of course, Adam. Go be with your family. I'll take care of everything here." I packed a bag and left for my parents' house, my mind racing with worry. The drive felt longer than usual, and by the time I arrived, I was filled with a mix of anxiety and determination. My mother greeted me at the door, her eyes red from crying. "Thank you for coming, Adam," she said, embracing me tightly. "Your father's been having heart problems, and the doctors are still running tests." I spent the next few days at the hospital with my father, holding his hand and talking about old times. It was a stark reminder of how precious life was and how quickly things could change. As we waited for the doctor's updates, I realized how important it was to cherish every moment with loved ones. Jessica called every evening, checking in on me and offering words of encouragement. Her support was a lifeline, keeping me grounded during a challenging time. "How's our little one?" I asked one night, longing to hear about our baby's day. "Doing great," Jessica said, her voice filled with warmth. "We miss you, but we're holding down the fort. Take all the time you need." The doctors eventually determined that my father needed surgery to address his heart issues. The news was both a relief and a source of new anxiety. I stayed with my family through the surgery and the initial recovery period, grateful for the time I could spend with them. When I finally returned home, I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Jessica greeted me with a warm hug, our baby babbling happily in her arms. "Welcome home, Adam," she said, her eyes shining with love. "Thank you," I said, feeling a surge of gratitude. "I missed you both so much." We settled back into our routine, but the experience with my father had left a lasting impression. It reminded me of the fragility of life and the importance of being present for those we love. Jessica and I continued to support each other through the ups and downs, knowing that together we could face any challenge. As the seasons changed and our baby grew, we cherished the simple joys of family life. Each day brought new adventures and opportunities to strengthen our bond. Despite the challenges we faced, our love remained steadfast, a constant source of comfort and resilience. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Jessica turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Adam, I've been thinking a lot about the future," she said, "about how we can make the most of our time together." I looked at her, curious. "What do you mean?" "I want to focus more on what truly matters," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "Our family, our happiness, and our well-being. Life is too short to get caught up in things that don't bring us joy." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of agreement. "You're right, Jess. Let's make a promise to prioritize what's truly important." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn from orange to purple. Our journey had been filled with trials and tribulations, but it had also brought us closer and made us stronger. With Jessica by my side and our baby in my arms, I knew we could face anything that came our way. Our story was still unfolding, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a beautiful life together. As long as we had each other, we were ready to embrace whatever challenges and joys the future held. The experience with my father's health scare had left a profound impact on us. It was a stark reminder of life's unpredictability and the importance of living intentionally. As the days turned into weeks, Jessica and I made a conscious effort to embrace a slower, more meaningful pace of life. One crisp winter morning, as the first snowflakes of the season fell gently outside, Jessica and I sat in the living room, sipping hot cocoa and watching our baby play with a new set of colorful blocks. The cozy warmth of the fire crackled in the background, and I felt a deep sense of contentment. I've been thinking a lot about our conversation on the porch, Jessica said, breaking the comfortable silence, about focusing on what truly matters. I nodded, setting my mug down. Me too. I've been thinking about ways we can simplify our lives and prioritize our time together. Jessica's eyes sparkled with excitement. What if we started a family project? Something that we can all be a part of and that brings us closer. I love that idea, I said, intrigued. Do you have something in mind? She smiled, her face lighting up. What if we started a small family garden? It would give us a chance to spend time outdoors, teach our child about nature, and grow our own food. A garden sounds perfect, I agreed, feeling a surge of enthusiasm. It's something we can all enjoy and nurture together. We spent the next few days planning our garden. Jessica researched different plants and vegetables, while I focused on designing the layout and gathering supplies. It was exciting to have a new project to work on, something that symbolized growth and renewal for our family. As spring approached, we began preparing the backyard for our garden. We cleared a space, built raised beds, and enriched the soil with compost. Our baby, now a curious toddler, toddled around, fascinated by the new activity. "Look at those little hands," Jessica said, laughing as our child tried to help by patting the soil with tiny fingers. "We've got a natural gardener on our hands." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride and joy. This is exactly what I hoped for, a project that brings us all together. We planted a variety of vegetables, herbs, and flowers, carefully tending to each seedling with love and care. The garden became a place of solace and connection, where we could escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life and focus on what truly mattered. One sunny afternoon, as we worked in the garden, Jessica paused and looked at me thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about making another change," she said, her voice filled with determination. "What kind of change?" I asked, curious. "I want to start my own small business," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "Something that allows me to use my skills and passions while still being present for our family." "That's an amazing idea, Jess," I said, feeling a surge of admiration. "What do you have in mind?" "I've always loved crafting and creating," she said, her face lighting up. "What if I started an online store selling handmade items, things like home decor, baby clothes, and personalized gifts?" "I think that's a wonderful idea," I said, feeling genuinely excited for her. "You're incredibly talented, and I know you'd be successful." Jessica's excitement was contagious, and over the next few weeks, we worked together to bring her vision to life. We set up an online store, took photographs of her creations, and shared her work on social media. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and Jessica's business quickly gained momentum. Balancing her new venture with motherhood and our garden project was challenging, but Jessica thrived on the creativity and sense of purpose it brought her. Our days were filled with laughter, love, and the satisfaction of building something meaningful together. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to Jessica with a smile. "I'm so proud of you," I said, taking her hand. "You've created something amazing." Jessica squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with love. "We've done it together, Adam. I couldn't have done any of this without your support." As we watched the sky turn shades of pink and orange, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Our journey had been filled with trials and triumphs, but through it all, we had grown stronger and more connected. Our garden flourished, a testament to our hard work and dedication. It became a place of joy and reflection, where we spent countless hours together, nurturing the plants and each other. Jessica's business continued to thrive, and our family found a beautiful rhythm of balance and harmony. As I rocked our baby to sleep one quiet evening, I thought about the future. Life would undoubtedly bring more challenges, but I knew that with Jessica by my side, we could face anything. Our love had been tested and had grown stronger, a beacon of hope and resilience in a world that often seemed uncertain. With renewed purpose and a deep sense of gratitude, we looked forward to the future with hope and joy, ready to embrace whatever came our way. Our story was still unfolding, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a beautiful life together. Summer arrived with a burst of color and life in our garden. The vegetables thrived under the warm sun, and the flowers bloomed in a riot of vibrant hues. Jessica's business continued to grow, and our home was filled with the delightful chaos of a toddler exploring the world with boundless curiosity. One hot July afternoon, as I was watering the garden, Jessica came outside with a jug of lemonade. "Thought you could use a break," she said, handing me a glass. Thanks, I replied, taking a sip and savoring the refreshing taste. The garden looks incredible. We've done a great job. Jessica smiled, looking around with pride. We really have. It's amazing to see how far we've come. Our baby, now a lively 2-year-old, toddled over to us, giggling and pointing at a butterfly that had landed on a nearby flower. Look, Daddy, butterfly. I crouched down to get a closer look. That's right, buddy. It's beautiful, isn't it? Jessica watched us with a contented smile. I've been thinking about expanding the garden, she said. Maybe add a few fruit trees and more flowers. What do you think? I think it's a great idea, I said, standing up and giving her a quick kiss. Let's make this place even more beautiful. We spent the next few weeks planning and planting, turning our backyard into a lush oasis. The garden became our sanctuary, a place where we could escape the pressures of everyday life and reconnect with each other. One evening, as we sat on the porch, enjoying the cool breeze, Jessica turned to me with a thoughtful expression. Adam, there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about. What is it? I asked, curious. I've been thinking about starting a blog, she said, her eyes bright with excitement. A place where I can share our journey, my crafting projects, and tips for balancing work and family life. I think that's a fantastic idea, I said, feeling genuinely excited for her. You have so much to share, and I know people would love to hear your story. Jessica's face lit up with enthusiasm. Really? You think so? Absolutely, I said, taking her hand. You're an inspiration, Jess. I'm sure your blog will be a huge success. We spent the next few days setting up her blog, brainstorming content ideas, and taking photos of her projects. Jessica's creativity and passion shone through in every post, and it wasn't long before she gained a loyal following. As Jessica's blog grew in popularity, it became another source of joy and fulfillment for her. She loved connecting with readers, sharing her experiences, and offering advice. Her posts were a beautiful reflection of our journey, filled with honesty, humor, and heart. One Saturday, we decided to host a small gathering in our garden to celebrate Jessica's achievements. We invited friends and family, eager to share our little oasis with them. The day was perfect. Our guests admired the garden, complimenting us on the vibrant flowers and healthy vegetables. Jessica's parents brought a delicious homemade pie, and our friends brought gifts and well wishes. As we stood together, surrounded by the people who had supported us through our journey, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Jessica stood up to say a few words, her voice filled with emotion. I just want to thank everyone for being here today. This garden, this blog, our family, none of it would be possible without your love and support. I joined her, taking her hand. We're so grateful for each and every one of you. Your support has meant the world to us, and we're excited to share this new chapter of our lives with you. As the evening wound down and our guests began to leave, Jessica and I stood together, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. Today was perfect, she said, resting her head on my shoulder. It was, I agreed, feeling a deep sense of contentment. I'm so proud of us, Jess. We've built something beautiful. Our lives continued to evolve, each day bringing new challenges and rewards. Jessica's blog and business flourished, our garden thrived, and our child grew more curious and adventurous with each passing day. Despite the occasional hurdles, our love remained strong, a constant source of comfort and resilience. One evening as I rocked our child to sleep, I thought about the future. Our journey had been filled with ups and downs, but it had also brought us incredible joy. We had faced our challenges head-on and emerged stronger, more connected, and ready to embrace whatever came our way. Jessica joined me, sitting beside us with a contented smile. What are you thinking about? She asked softly. About how lucky we are, I replied, looking at her with love, and how excited I am for the future. She nodded, her eyes filled with warmth. Me too, Adam. We've come so far, and I know there's so much more ahead for us. As we sat there, our child sleeping peacefully in my arms, I felt a profound sense of peace. Our story was still unfolding, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a beautiful life together. And as long as we had each other, I knew that we could face anything that came our way. Autumn brought with it a crispness in the air and the vibrant hues of changing leaves. Our garden, now filled with pumpkins and late-blooming flowers, stood as a testament to the growth and resilience we had cultivated in our lives. Jessica's blog and business continued to thrive, and our toddler was now an energetic little explorer, eager to learn and discover. One evening, as we sat in the living room planning our upcoming holiday festivities, Jessica turned to me with a contemplative look. Adam, I've been thinking a lot about the future, about what we want for ourselves and our family. What's on your mind? I asked, curious about the direction of her thoughts. Well, we've built this wonderful life here, and I love our garden, our home, and everything we've accomplished, she began, her voice filled with emotion. But I've also been feeling a pull to do something more, to give back in a way that's meaningful. I nodded, understanding her sentiment. I've felt that too. We've been so blessed, and it feels right to find a way to share that with others. Jessica's eyes lit up. I've been thinking about starting a community garden, a place where people can come together, learn about gardening, and share in the harvest. It could be a way to connect with our neighbors and give back to the community. I love that idea, I said, feeling a surge of excitement. It's a perfect way to use our skills and passions to make a positive impact. Over the next few weeks, we dove into planning the community garden. We reached out to our neighbors, local schools, and community organizations, gathering support and resources. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and we quickly found ourselves surrounded by enthusiastic volunteers, eager to help bring our vision to life. As winter settled in, we held planning meetings, drew up designs, and organized fundraisers. Our weekends were filled with brainstorming sessions, and our evenings were spent drafting proposals and coordinating with community leaders. Despite the busy schedule, Jessica and I felt invigorated by the project, our shared purpose strengthening our bond even further. One snowy Saturday morning, we hosted a community gathering at our home to present our plans for the garden. The living room buzzed with excitement as neighbors and friends crowded in, eager to hear about the project. Jessica stood at the front of the room, a large poster board displaying the garden plans behind her. "Thank you all for coming today," she began, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "Adam and I are so grateful for your support and excited to share our vision for the community garden." I joined her, feeling a swell of pride. This project is about more than just growing plants. It's about growing connections, fostering a sense of community, and sharing the joy and benefits of gardening with everyone. The room erupted in applause, and as the meeting continued, we were overwhelmed by the offers of help and donations. It was clear that our community shared our passion and was eager to be part of something positive and transformative. With the support of our community, we spent the winter months preparing for the garden's spring launch. We secured a plot of land from the city, gathered supplies, and organized volunteer teams. The anticipation built as the days grew longer and the promise of spring approached. On the first warm day of spring, we gathered at the garden site, ready to break ground. Jessica, our child, and I stood together, shovels in hand, surrounded by friends, neighbors, and volunteers. Jessica turned to me, her eyes shining with excitement. "Ready to start this new chapter?" "Absolutely," I said, feeling a deep sense of purpose. "Let's do this." We dug into the earth, the first shovelfuls of soil marking the beginning of a new journey. As we worked side by side with our community, planting seeds and building garden beds, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This garden was more than just a project. It was a symbol of our growth, our resilience, and our commitment to making a difference. Over the next few months, the garden flourished. Families, students, and individuals of all ages came together to plant, tend, and harvest. It became a place of learning, connection, and joy. Jessica and I spent countless hours there, our hearts full as we watched the garden and our community thrive. One sunny afternoon, as we harvested the first batch of vegetables, Jessica turned to me with a radiant smile. "We've created something truly special, Adam. I'm so proud of us." "I am too," I said, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "This garden is a testament to what we can achieve together. It's a new beginning not just for us, but for everyone involved." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the garden, I looked around at the faces of our friends and neighbors, all united by a shared purpose. Our journey had brought us here, to this moment of collective effort and joy. And as long as we had each other and our community, I knew we could face any challenge and create a future filled with hope and possibility. Our story was still unfolding, with each chapter bringing new adventures and opportunities for growth. And as we embraced this new beginning, I felt confident that the best was yet to come. Together, we could achieve anything and build a life filled with love, purpose, and endless possibilities.